What if the reason you cut everyone off isn't selfishness, fear of commitment, or being emotionally unstable? What if that sudden urge to sever connections, walk away, and disappear from people's lives isn't a flaw in you, but a sign that your mind learned early to protect itself before it gets hurt? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, we're going to explore a truth most people never see. Cutting people off doesn't always mean you're cold or unable to maintain relationships. Sometimes it means you've been hurt in ways that taught you isolation feels safer than staying. There's a type of loneliness only certain people know. Not the loneliness of being physically alone, but the subtle one. Standing in a room full of people you deliberately pushed away. Carrying phone numbers you'll never call again. Remembering friendships you ended without explanation. It's the quiet ache of knowing you're the common denominator in every disappeared relationship. It's not a conscious choice. It happens quickly, sharply, like closing a door the moment you sense danger. One moment, someone is part of your life. The next, they're blocked, deleted, gone. People assume cutting people off means you're cold or unable to maintain relationships, but they miss something deeper. You don't cut people off because you don't care. You cut people off because caring has always led to pain, and your mind learned that absence hurts less than betrayal. And here's the part no one ever talks about. That impulse to disappear, to end things, to walk away, isn't cruelty. It's a psychological response your mind developed to protect parts of you that the world didn't handle gently enough. There are signs that appear long before someone says, "I just cut everyone off." They're subtle, easy to rationalize, but they shape the entire relational landscape of someone who exits before they're abandoned. It often begins with small moments. A friendship that was close suddenly goes cold after one minor conflict. A relationship where you felt vulnerable, so you ghost instead of explaining. A group you leave without warning because you sensed judgment. A person who got too close, so you created distance before they could hurt you. At first, these moments feel justified. You tell yourself they didn't deserve you. They weren't real friends. They would have left anyway. But quietly, they begin adding up. Your mind creates patterns. You test people by pulling away to see if they chase. You find flaws in everyone close to you as justification to leave. You feel suffocated when relationships deepen. You exit at the first sign of disappointment. Simple conflicts begin to feel like betrayals. You replay conversations, wondering if they meant something hurtful, if they're secretly judging you, if they're planning to abandon you first. And while this is happening externally, something deeper forms inside. A soft, persistent belief. Everyone leaves eventually, so I'll leave first. Not because you're heartless, but because the world taught you that staying means getting hurt, and leaving means staying in control. So you drift, not physically, but emotionally. You start exiting more than investing, protecting more than connecting, and slowly your mind whispers a quiet truth. You're safer alone, and you believe it. If you're still here, take a second to notice something. The very reason this resonates might be the same reason you've cut off people who genuinely cared, and understanding where it began might help you understand yourself in a way you never have before. Let's go deeper. This pattern doesn't suddenly appear in adulthood. Its roots reach quietly into childhood, into early friendships, family dynamics, first betrayals, and moments that seemed small but silently shaped how your mind learned to handle relationships. Maybe it began with a parent who was unpredictable. One day warm and loving, the next cold and angry. So you learned to disconnect before the next outburst. You learned that staying detached meant staying safe. Or maybe it was a friendship that ended painfully. Your best friend suddenly turned on you, shared your secrets, chose someone else, and your mind made a decision. Closeness leads to abandonment.
Sometimes it starts in a household where emotions were weaponized, where vulnerability was used against you. So you learned to feel nothing instead. You learned that emotional distance wasn't just defense, it was survival. A child who was abandoned learns to abandon first. A child who felt rejected learns that leaving feels like power. A child who was betrayed learns that trust is a trap. Psychologists call this preemptive abandonment. Your brain creates templates. Relationships end painfully. People will hurt you. Leaving first means you're in control. Isolation is safer than intimacy. When attachment felt dangerous, when vulnerability led to pain, your nervous system adapted by learning to cut ties before they cut too deep. It didn't feel wrong then, it felt like survival. And as you grew older, this pattern evolved into a quiet belief: you're better off alone. Not because you lack the ability to connect, but because connection was never safe enough for your mind to fully trust it. When you spend years cutting people off, the protective mechanism that once kept you safe starts keeping you trapped. At first, it feels empowering. You're in control of who stays and goes. You don't get hurt because you leave first. You feel strong, independent, untouchable. But over time, something deeper unfolds. Your connections become shallow because you never let anyone close. You feel lonelier after each exit. You start wondering if you're even capable of lasting relationships anymore. You create a life where no one truly knows you. The comfort of control comes with a cost. The safer cutting people off feels, the more isolated you become. Suddenly, every new relationship feels temporary from the start. You anticipate the end from the beginning. You keep one foot out the door at all times. Deep connection feels terrifying instead of fulfilling. You don't cut people off because you don't need them. You cut them off because needing someone feels like handing them the knife that could destroy you. And slowly, without deciding it, cutting people off becomes so automatic that staying, truly staying, feels impossible. You're not heartless, you're terrified. And loneliness disguised as strength is still loneliness. When you cut people off repeatedly, a quiet shift happens. You stop seeing yourself as self-protective and start seeing yourself through others' assumptions. You're toxic, you can't commit, you're cold, you sabotage everything. And even though these labels miss the full truth, hearing them often enough leaves a mark. So you start questioning yourself. Am I the problem? Why can't I stay? Is something fundamentally broken in me? The loop begins. The more you doubt yourself, the harder intimacy feels. The harder intimacy feels, the faster you exit. The faster you exit, the more people confirm you're the problem, and the cycle deepens. But here's the truth that rarely gets spoken, the part that might shift everything. Cutting everyone off doesn't mean you're incapable of love. It doesn't mean you're destined to be alone. It doesn't mean you're fundamentally damaged. It means your mind learned to prioritize safety over connection because early relationships taught you that connection wasn't safe. Your pattern isn't a character flaw, it's a survival strategy. Your mind wasn't failing, it was protecting you. But here's the turning point. You don't need to force yourself to stay in every relationship. You just need to learn the difference between relationships that deserve distance and relationships you're leaving out of fear. Your healing doesn't require you becoming someone who never leaves. It asks you to notice the urge to cut someone off before acting on it. Ask yourself, am I leaving because of real harm or because I'm scared? Let one person stay, even when it feels uncomfortable. Communicate before disappearing. Not because you're wrong, but because you deserve relationships where staying doesn't feel like a threat. People like you, the self-protective, the guarded, the deeply wounded, often build the most loyal connections once they learn that not everyone who gets close will hurt them. You're not toxic, you're not broken, you're not incapable of love. You're simply protecting a heart that learned too early how much staying can cost. If today's video made you feel seen, there's more to explore. Many people who cut everyone off also struggle with trusting again and letting people in. Watch the psychology of people who struggle with trust to complete this picture. Before you go, share your experience in the comments. You never know who needs to hear they're not alone in this. And if you want to stay connected to this corner of the internet where guarded hearts and protective minds are finally understood, subscribe. This world might have taught you to cut people off, but you belong here. And maybe, just maybe, this is where you can learn to stay.